This is a video tutorial for Phil 123, Module 9 on physicalism. Now, in the previous video tutorial, I talked about Descartes and dualism and distinguished some different kinds of dualism. What's essential to all kinds of dualism is that they draw a sharp distinction between the mind on the one hand and body on the other. These are two different things. For Descartes, the mind and body were two different kinds of substances. So perhaps with some of the other kinds of folks, like people who advocate occasionalism and parallelism and so on. Now, the opposite, or perhaps the contrary, in the literature on the mind-body problem, that the contrary to dualism is something we might call monism. If dualism suggests there's just one of something, if dualism suggests that there's two of something, monism suggests there's just one. Now, there's different kinds of what I'm calling monist theories or monisms in philosophy of mind. One position that runs contrary to, say, Descartes' position, Cartesian dualism or substance dualism, says there's just one kind of substance. Again, Descartes thought there were two kinds of substance, physical substance and thinking substance. A monist about substance, what we'll call a materialist, says, nope, there's just one kind of substance and that's it. Even your mind, even mental stuff, even mental phenomenon are ultimately just rooted in material substance, nothing weirder than that. Now, the concept of substance is it's kind of an outdated concept. You won't hear contemporary physicists or my colleagues in any of the sciences talk about substance. What more likely they're going to advocate is a position that we can call physicalism. Physicalism does not say there's only one kind of substance. Physicalism suggests there's only one kind of property, that all properties are physical properties. Now, what do I mean when I talk about properties? I don't mean anything fancier than a way that the world is. For example, there's the property of being over 6 feet tall. I'm not. There's the property of being a pen. There's the property of being an iPhone. That's my iPhone. Okay, these are all ways the world could be. When we say that all properties are physical properties, we mean something a little bit complicated. If you notice the definition on the handout, physicalism is the position partly that all properties are physical properties. And what that means is that every property out there either is or is reducible to, it's nothing over and above, the kind of properly postulated by a complete finished science. For example, physics. A physicist might say the following sort of thing. Look, we know that the universe is made up of lots and lots and lots of really small things, be it atoms or quarks or superstrings, whatever it is physicists talk about these days. And that if you want to create the whole universe, all you need to do is take those tiny little pieces, those protons, those quarks, those superstrings, whatever, and put them in the right place. That once you've put all those tiny little pieces in the right place, there's nothing else to do. Baseballs are nothing over and above molecules arranged in the shape of baseballs. An iPhone is nothing over and above a whole mess of little tiny particles arranged iPhone-wise. You and I are nothing other than a collection, says the physicalist, of these very tiny physical elements. And even mental properties, reduced to, they're nothing over and above complicated arrangements of physical particles. That's it. Okay? So a physicalist will deny there's anything like a non-physical soul. A physicist would probably say that you just are this complicated arrangement of molecules and nothing more than that. So physicalism, and again, that's the popular position these days among people who care about such things in the philosophy of mind. Physicalism says that all properties, including mental properties, the property of being happy or sad, of being in pain, of thinking, of being conscious, these are all just physical properties, ultimately reducible to the properties of a finished physical science. Okay. Now, among physicalisms, there's a couple different distinctions to keep in mind. One popular kind of physicalism is what we might call the identity theory. According to the identity theory, mental states, and we'll just pick the state of being in pain as an example here, the mental state of being in pain just that is identical to a complicated state of something like your brain or your central nervous system or whatever. Okay. The philosopher Peter Carruthers goes in for this kind of position. Carruthers is a physicalist, and he advocates the identity theory. On early versions of the identity theory, we would just pick out a very complicated kind of brain state. People would talk about C fibers firing. I have no idea if there really is anything like C fibers in your brain, but go with it. According to the early identity theorists, being in pain just is being in a state of your central nervous system where your C fibers are firing. That's it. It's nothing over and above that. So in the same way that lightning just is, that is, reduces to electric discharge in the atmosphere, okay, being in pain just is, that is, reduces to being in a kind of physical state, your C fibers firing or whatever. Okay, so that's the identity theory. Being in pain just is being in that kind of mental state. Now, the main objection against physicalism, and you see this in the Churchland paper, by the way, Churchland himself is a kind of physicalist, but he doesn't clearly go in for the identity theory. We'll talk about what Churchland does think in a little bit. One problem for identity theorists is that it sure seems like there's lots of different ways to be in pain. It's not just human beings like you and I who have C fibers who can be in pain. Can't dogs and cats be in pain? Can't whales be in pain? Maybe there's weird space aliens with a very different kind of bodily makeup, a very different kind of body chemistry than you and I have. And they don't have anything like C fibers, but they might still be in pain. Whales have presumably a different kind of nervous system than we do. If you hit them with a hammer, I bet it hurts. You shouldn't hit whales with hammers. In any case, this is the problem of chauvinism that someone like Gertler brings up. The problem, sometimes called the problem of multiple realizability, is that it seems like there's multiple ways for an individual to be in pain. But there's just one nervous system that has, say, C fibers. There's just one nervous system of human beings. If there's lots of ways that different kinds of critters can be in pain, then they can't all reduce to a complicated state of our nervous system. They have different kinds of nervous systems. So the identity view kind of morphed over the years into a position called functionalism. That's how I like to understand them. Functionalism is kind of a refined, developed, revised version of the identity theory. Functionalism is still a physicalist theory. Being in pain, says the functionalist, is nothing over and above being in a certain kind of physical state. But we don't identify it as anything in particular, say the physical, the C fibers firing, or some particular region of your brain being exhibiting an electrical discharge or something. The functionalist identifies, say, being in pain with the kind of state of your central nervous system that plays a causal role. Whatever it is that is caused by, say, tissue damage, and whatever it is that causes us to perform the characteristic kinds of behavior that we imagine people in pain perform. Wincing and moaning, grabbing at the site of pain, trying to move away from the thing that's causing you pain. Whatever state is caused by the right stuff and produces the right behavior, that, says the functionalist, that is what it is to be in pain. And it might be that different kinds of critters are caused to feel pain by different inputs, they cause different kinds of behaviors, or even better, they perform the right behavior and are caused to be in pain by the same inputs, but they just have different states of their nervous system. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is for a critter that is caused by the right stuff and produces the right behavioral outputs, that's what it is to be in pain. It's whatever plays that functional role. That's why it's called functionalism. Okay, so these are two different kinds of physicalism, functionalism and the identity theory. There's another physicalist position out there, what we might call the eliminative materialist position, and this is what Churchland really goes in for. Churchland is impressed by the fact that all of our attempts to reduce mental states to physical states don't work so well. What Churchland thinks is that we should just eliminate talk of mental states and mental properties altogether. He draws this analogy between mental states on the one hand and, say, the property of being a witch on the other. It turned out, when we were investigating the property of being a witch, that our attempts to reduce being a witch to something else just didn't work. Okay? The property of being a witch didn't explain anything. It didn't help us predict anything. Once we got clear about what witchiness consisted in, whatever that is, it turned out that the property we were glomming onto just didn't explain anything. So what we did is stop talking about witches. Churchland has a series of arguments that suggest we should do the same thing about mental states. His is a physicalist position. There's nothing but physical properties, says Churchland, but there's really no mental properties worth talking about. Both the identity theorist and the functionalist thinks there are mental properties that reduce to physical properties. Someone like Churchland says there's nothing to reduce.